Town Board to order on this 28th day of September 2023. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Supervisor Schneiderman.
Here.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Here.
Councilman Martell.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier.
Here.
Councilman Schiavone.
Present.
Almost.
Never gonna happen. Never gonna happen.
You're gonna have to give him like the last one, Tommy.
Hurting cats.
I feel bullied.
All right, so, we're all here, or present. All right, so we're going to start with a discussion of the Riverside Maritime Park Trail Plan. I want to invite a few people up to the forward table. Janice Shearer, our Town Planning and Development Administrator. Dave Wilcox, our Planning Director. Nick, how do you say your last name on this? Jimenez. Jimenez. And Tom Allen, our town engineer. Welcome, everyone. So I know there was a resolution on that we tabled because the board really hadn't had an opportunity to talk about the plan for this waterfront park. And I wanted to see where we were before we awarded a contract to, was it Land Tech or something? I can't remember who.
Yes, Land Tech.
So who wants to introduce us? Jess?
Good morning. Thanks for having us, and sorry we didn't come before the resolution was on. That was just sort of a procedural oversight. Dave's going to give you the history. Tom and Nick, it's been turned over to engineering as far as getting on the ground and getting the work done. But at your direction, Supervisor on the board, we're really excited that we're finally at a point where we're going to have, commence putting this park in, and this is all, part of the revitalization of Riverside. So I'll turn it over to Dave.
Sure. So this has had fits and starts over the years, but we got to the point where we finally had a concept plan that we took to the county park trustees. I presented it to them at one of their meetings just after everything opened up after COVID. And they had a few issues with it, and they recommended some changes and some revisions. What I've handed out is the concept plan that was presented to the park trustees and which was approved by them. We have resolutions approving that concept plan and also approving the PRB, which is kind of a parallel project that's happening in the park. The second page of that handout that I gave you has the list of all the revisions that we made from our original proposals. I don't know that I need to go through that, but if you go through it, you can see how we've scaled it back and taken out some of the items that the trustees thought really didn't comply with the passive park definition for this property. When the county bought it, they defined it as passive parkland, and they had very detailed and restrictions on how we could develop it. So we've scaled it back, and this is the concept plan that we're going with now. And as I said, the county has approved it. It's also been to the county CEQ, and they have also issued or recommended that the county legislature issue a neg deck on this concept. And so with this concept, we have turned it over to engineering for them to come up with a phase that we can construct at this point and actually get something started there. I think this first phase isn't for the entire concept plan, but it's for a part of it. And unless you have any questions, I'll turn it over to...
Before you do, so the properties that are involved in this park, and I've been involved with this for a long time here, the properties that we started out with were county properties, but then we added quite a number of town acquisitions as well with CPF.
To the east.
The Cat Cove properties, et cetera.
These are only for, this whole thing right now is just on the county
That
property.
is just on the county
And
property.
subsequent to them saying, well, this is a passive park, you purchased the other properties, and we thought, well, that's okay, then we'll put the comfort station and those things on the CPF
Well, so that's
part.
sort of where I
So-
was going, because obviously CPF funds, which can be used to enhance access to open space and to create parking, can't be used on non-CPF properties. So a lot of these things, I see it's a $500,000 price tag for this.
We have grant money, and that's also an important point here. We have, the initial grant monies are from the state LWRP fund, and they gave us money for construction, design. There was a pot of money for construction and for design. So we went through a lot of iterations with Cashin. On a parallel track, Franca got a grant related to sort of environmental justice, and they had their wish list of all the things they'd like to see, and mostly revolving around the idea that the name of this place is Riverside, but there's no connection to the river.
Right.
And so connecting to the river was a major component of the plan, being able to get there. So, but the wish list of Franca had a lot of active park type of things. So we would like to eventually move those more active things to our CPF
Okay.
property. And this is really a trail, some overlooks, gravel parking.
Is there overlooks? Because I
Not in the
remember,
views.
Not in this phase, but there will be.
because,
yes.
yeah, I remember earlier phases of this where there was little docks and things like platforms on the water, trails leading out. I mean, I envision maybe in some future phase where, you know, I mean, you have on the other side of the river, you have the walkway all along the river's edge, that we would have, you know, the potential to have a walkway, elevated catwalk walkway along the water's edge, and even maybe potentially some pedestrian kind of, like over these spots like this, where you could continue the trail over the water, which is very doable in this area, and just create a really beautiful, you know, waterfront experience. Whereas this is great, but, you know, once again, yeah, it's a riverside, but you're not, I don't know if you'll even see the river from this. know,
You
there's a
will.
trail in the woods.
There are definite connections to the river. It's just that for this initial phase, in order, you know, just to be honest, in order to keep that grant funding, we have to show some actual
Some action.
progress here. And so we need to get the trail and get the parking, at least it's only a gravel, you know, access lot. And then we'll move into the permitting phase, because all those catwalks and overlooks and kayak launches and things like that require DEC approval.
So I'm just confused a little bit here. 6, according to the revisions, number 6, which is the group fitness platform, that's been removed by the trustees.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, and then the Woodland Trail, that's number 7 on your map, Dave, which isn't shown here. Has that been eliminated
no,
too? Because I say realign the Woodland Trail to straddle.
we're not proposing to build everything on the concept plan right now. This concept plan is proposed to be built in phases, I think maybe 2 phases. But
Yeah, I'm
The
just
more
concerned if
important plan to look
they're,
at-
in their revision or their review
So
of
this
this,
is
they
what we're doing
eliminated
now.
that. It won't be in any phase.
No, that's
No?
not so. This is definitely the plan right now. Dave drew this up so we could understand what we went to the county with after the wish list of
Okay,
Franca.
so this is the
and then
before
what
and
we-
that's the
Yeah,
after.
So
kind
this-
they're
of.
not really before and after.
It's
That's the
sort of-
overall concept plan. That's
is
kind of like the
overall.
master
This
plan.
one or
Yeah.
this one?
That
The color is the concept master
This one, so it does
plan.
have the outdoor education center?
Well, under your revisions, it says eliminated the group fitness platform. Is that different?
Because that was more active rec
On county
on
property.
county property, and
Yeah.
we can move
So
that
we
over
wanna
to
move that
our.
So
to
it's
our.
this.
Anything that was-
It's this one, without the
So this is the
trail.
county
So-
piece.
Yes.
This
Without
is the
the
county piece,
platform,
And without
this
without
is
the
the
woodland
woodland
trail.
trail that we're doing in accordance with what they said we could do.
Okay,
I was
all right.
100% okay with that.
So we're just moving one thing to another,
And then
but we still
anything
have the same.
ancillary that we need, that the community would like to see, you can consider that, and that will come back to you as to how that would be placed and used on the CPF
So the
land.
kayak launch, the fishing pier, that's all down the road.
That's down the road, phase 2 on the county property, to be clear, but we need DEC permits for all that. So that takes a while, and
We
we
need
don't wanna
trustee-
wait, because otherwise we risk losing the money we do have, which is significant.
Do we need trustee permits on this? You mentioned trustees.
Park
Or-
trustees, this is, the
park,
bottom
okay.
land is owned by the state of New York. Yeah, County Estuary, sorry.
With
So-
the players involved, thank you.
So this all looks good, as long as it's a early phase, I think that at least we show some forward motion. But, you know, last night I did a quick little drawing of like the future, and let me just pass it on, just for discussion purposes, I don't know how many I have, but just,
We'll
just sort of illustrate what I was talking about, where you could probably have both the inner trail and an outer trail and platforms in the future, and even potentially a water crossing, maybe even two of them. So I'm showing here the town pieces and the county pieces. So this plan that you guys have just includes the county pieces.
That's correct.
So, but in the future, and then I also showed two private pieces that one day potentially could be added if we're able to get them, so we can connect all the way to McDonald's. So those last two pieces right now are not publicly owned.
Correct.
Right.
And we have a lot of holdings here with the county and the town, and also the Riverside Revitalization Action Plan requires each and every developer to give toward a maritime trail, so that you can effectuate this trail. Whether
Right,
or
so-
not you can put all these platforms remains to be seen.
Right,
with
so that's the idea, is
DEC.
I figured I'd show a few of them, and I'd show a few connections to Flanders Riverside Road. So, and then I'm showing two parking areas, because one would have the comfort station, the one to the right, potentially down the road.
This is the county,
And,
so.
but I, I'm not trying to show
Take it
exactly what they would look like,
here.
just kind of the idea of how you can have an inner trail and an outer trail one day as phase two.
Yes,
wherever-
and number 7 on our concept plan is
Yeah.
a woodland trail.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is more of the paved, surface that is ADA compliant.
Oh, sorry.
So the
could you
number 2
speak to-
trail that we're doing right now, the one that you see, that's number 2, that one is, a paved surface, so that
So,
anyone
think
can use it.
anyway, but so, again, so.
I have a question about,
You can
The-
overlay.
This doesn't conflict with the possibility of later getting a waterfront elevated catwalk.
No,
It
it
might
doesn't.
be- it
And I
might
mean,
be,
if I worked on this project a long time ago, and it was called River Catwalk, before it was acquired, so.
Yeah, we went
That
through a
would be
lot of
interesting.
public hearings.
and so when
You
you
know,
get there,
And
Yeah.
just
need
the
to know
last
the
point I'll
difference
say is
between-
that, at least on the CPF piece,
I'll wait.
because it is, just the last thought here, is that on the waterfront, that catwalk potentially can be paid for with CPF dollars, which we have available on our pieces, but not the pieces that are the county-owned pieces.
Right, the county-owned pieces, we have the money in our hand right now to do what we're asking to do, and we have the contractors on a requirements contract,
Right.
so they'll pay prevailing wage, everything's already been worked out, so, and the money is already in our bank account to pay for it, so
I'll
we're
yield
all
to, I'll
set.
yield to Councilman Skiboda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 350 after this assumed to do phase 2, or at least get phase 2 rolling.
Okay.
So with a catwalk along the riverside here, when that comes to fruition, we need to know the differences, the engineering challenges between a freshwater wetland catwalk and saltwater catwalks that have storm surge, tidal, ice pack. This is, I'm always interested in this. When I was a kid, you used to see the docks get pulled out of the mud, in the wintertime when the ice freezes around there. So that is something that we would need to address there. On the other side, it's bulkheaded. We are not going to bulkhead this. For some reason, the dredge spoils came onto our side years ago, and we're not remediating it, but we're letting it revert. So that
Right,
would
if
be
you
an
see these,
incredibly
this is like,
expensive
there was
trail.
like, this was literally like barge parking,
Uh-huh.
and when you look back at the past.
Janice,
And,
was-
and now it could be an important water feature, for us to
Potentially.
utilize, yeah.
And,
Absolutely.
obviously, if you had that waterfront catwalk, the use of the park goes up exponentially, right?
Mhm.
Because now you're really attracting people to the area to go on that, and maybe one day, either you have a connection by water to the aquarium, to the other side, a little platform boat that could go across, or even potentially a pedestrian bridge or something.
They have discussed that, like maybe the aquarium doing a little Tom Sawyer boat to do educational programs across the way, and it's
So
great.
there's
They have
all
summer
kinds of
camp.
possibilities once you get to the waterfront.
Great.
Was the-
Councilwoman McNamara?
Was the Peconic Estuary grant also for this area?
No, that
It's
was
for-
for the dredge spoil area at Shumeda
Okay.
parcel, but mostly for a concept plan for anywhere along here that you want to do a restoration plan, but mostly it will revert a lot of it, but you can sort of dig out some elevations to get the, like Spartina or different marsh plants that are conducive to that area. But, yeah. So we're excited. I think that there's so many possibilities here, and you have great ideas, Supervisor
future.
Schneiderman. I think it's gonna be really nice, and at least we can get the first phase in, which is actual access and a trail. That's really all we're looking to do right now, and then we'll proceed with the permits, and then we'll see what DEC has to say, and then we'll come back.
What's the timeline on this once we approve the,
For construction of phase one,
yeah,
this fall, contract is ready to roll.
that'd be awesome.
I assume we'll see yellow machines by Halloween.
Nice.
Yep, so town board approval, we're already on contract with them based on a requirements contract. So week or two mobilization after the town board meeting. So
Is this gonna be a Suffolk County park or a Southampton Town Park? When you pull into the driveway and you see the sign,
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think they,
Okay.
in the intermunicipal agreement, it actually talks about that.
I think
And
it
I
does.
think
It's
you
very
have to
involved.
say Suffolk County
The
and
world
the
should
town of
know we're building
Southampton.
this
I
out.
think it's like together,
Yeah,
you
it was
know.
Suffolk
Yeah.
County on the top of the design in Southampton, in conjunction
Can-
with municipalities, something like that.
Can I ask a question? You chose to put the vehicular entrance to this park right across from, is it Vale there, or I can't remember.
We're
It's right
utilizing-
across from a street, but it also has this weird fork in it, and I'm just wondering if that's a safe place if vehicles coming from, what is this, the south to turn in.
we're planning to utilize the existing curb cut that's in the sidewalk right now. If vehicles are coming from, do you mean the west, Mr. Supervisor, or on 24
Somebody, if
or
you're
on
on
I
Vale
guess,
and you
I
wanna
guess
come
it's
across
east.
24
Vehicles
into
coming,
Park.
east, I see north now, so vehicles coming from the east would be turning,
Right.
Right turn.
Right.
would be turning right. So, yeah, vehicles coming from the west would be crossing traffic, but you also have that other street to the south.
There is a center turn lane right opposite that, so
Are we creating conflicts there
I
potentially?
Reverend
don't
Penn and Way.
believe so.
Okay.
We have a center turning lane that can be utilized to turn left into the parking lot, and anyone who will be exiting Vale and heading west on 24 will be crossing into the westbound lane. They won't be utilizing the center lane to join, and
If somebody were making a left into the park from the west,
yeah,
that's not a conflict?
I mean, they're,
Well, there's a center turn lane.
Well, in your revision 19, they talk,
Yes, sir.
right? That's eliminating the need for the turning lane on 24, shifting the parking area and entrance to the east, take advantage of existing curb cut. Is that related to this?
Yes, and when
So-
cash and first.
So this is feedback from the county based on what we had presented, and these are their,
This
I
was
mean, they're
vetted, this is-
eliminating bioswales,
Yeah,
they've
it's-
made the parking lot smaller. I mean, I think this
Do you
is
wanna
all
talk about the
tolerable,
PRD?
but
I
it's
just
not
want to
what
make
you
sure
proposed originally.
that,
They wanted us to just have a very low-key parking area, not like this big lighted, thing. It's just sort of like if you ever went to like Cranberry Bog or like those kinds of.
No,
like,
and it makes sense to
access-
me.
Trail access, so picture it like that, more so than this over-engineered,
we also imagine this to be 5 to 15 cars a day.
yeah,
So
you're not
right.
talking about.
Well, they
a lot of
eliminated the
cars.
comfort station,
that's a conflict I'm talking
communication
about, to be
service, all
honest.
these
But if you
things
say
that
if
we
it's
talked
vetted,
about
it's
originally, they
fine.
eliminated,
Yeah,
but we
there's,
can,
there's plenty of room to make that
put
turn,
that
and with the
on
low
our
volume of
Even with
cars.
Yeah.
somebody waiting in that left turning lane to pull into the park, you could make the left.
Yeah, there's plenty of sight distance across that triangle. It's not vegetated. I think there's like a bush in that, so.
Tom, are there
Yes.
any planned upgrades to the crosswalk?
Uh,
on
we-
County Road 24?
We look to ask for a rapid flashing beacon with CDBG funds
Uh-huh.
for this area, but we would have to coordinate with the state since it's their right of way.
You say at the crosswalk?
Yeah, there's an existing crosswalk, there's existing signage, but it's not of the quality of signage that we've done for the Bridgehampton Improvement Project, where there's a push button, flashing beacon. Like, I drive this route almost every night, and you can, it's actually quite difficult to see pedestrians in that crosswalk when it starts to get dark. So a rapid flashing beacon upgrade there would be well served.
Okay.
I mean, this
This is
really
a
looks to me
phased
like
part.
it's cost, they've taken a lot of cost out of this. by removing a lot of things.
Well, they just didn't want it to be
Active.
too
Much of
I
a
guess.
center. Yeah,
And so
I get that.
we
see
get
it.
that. We just want it to be useful and somewhere you want to go. And also now we have the connectivity to our CPF land, and you can think further about what improvements you want to
But
have
there-
there.
So
I
are
know
we
it-
working on
sorry.
improvements to our property to the east?
We
We'll
have
call that phase
We-
2?
We can
Okay.
commence that.
Oh.
Yes, we're just trying to get
I
this
know,
done,
right.
you know, like.
So most of the things that were eliminated that we're putting into phase 2 is everything that the public, asked for and we tried to add and are still asking for. My phone's blowing up right now. Everybody's going, woo-hoo, that you're gonna break ground soon. So, I mean, we're gonna try to put a lot of this back in phase 2, right? And the
On our
connectivity will be
property.
great, yep,
Yeah.
and we'll have no problems with any of that.
Yeah, because then once you have, and then we'll add that, it loops back around, so you come back out, but you can then create, we can work more on the maritime trail and how that, on the inner woodland trail, will connect
Connect, yeah.
to CPF, like.
Are we
like
planning a second
Jay
parking
Goodman.
lot?
Not at the moment, but obviously anything is on the table that you want to see and the community wants to see. We have no objection.
Well, if the bathroom is gonna be potentially on the CPF plan, we probably wanna have some parking over there too. Otherwise, you have to go all the way down the trail just to get to the bathroom.
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
water service and things like that that were taken out on the revision side of things.
Um,
I don't see a problem with that,
Is the
frankly.
parking area, it's all pervious, is it crushed stone?
Except for the ADA access.
So there'll be one small concrete pad for a
Yep.
couple cars?
And then we're gonna extend the concrete apron, the asphalt apron after the curb cut, just so when a vehicle is sitting on that pad, getting ready to pull out on the 24, they don't spin any tires on gravel or anything like that.
Is there any, well, I'll hold the elimination question for a second, but the original plan called for like bioswales or rain gardens, that's all out now? Or is that?
At
that's
the,
not in their
what
part.
we're doing at the water side is more invasives removals first,
Okay.
because it's just, gnarly, and so we'll try to get that
Because if there was a
removed,
water quality
and then-
component here, CPF could potentially pay for that, but
So they eliminated wetland and shoreline restoration, but retained invasive species removal and.
Yeah,
planting of
so like
indigenous
before you
species.
restore it, you really have to know what you're dealing with, and first things first is get rid of all the knotweed and invasive.
I think this helps inform what you're calling phase 2. I think this actually helps inform the next week.
Yeah, it's
phase.
by far from over. We just need to at least begin.
Started.
Yeah.
So we just want to start.
So just back for a second, so there's no water quality component at all to this plan? Nothing CPF could
Not at the
fund?
moment, but we have funding for this whole thing
We
right
have
now.
funding, okay,
Yeah.
so it's all funded.
So we're good.
And is there any illumination, or is it, there's no
No.
lighting at all, not
No
parking lot lighting?
Yep.
Well, it
dusk to
closes
dawn.
at dusk. The park closes.
How does it close?
So, I mean, it's not meant to be utilized.
There's
It's
no
by-
gate that locks, right? So
There
it's-
could be. We didn't do that, but we could put a gate.
Yeah, we didn't put that in, but we did.
Something that can be easily
Yeah,
added, you
it's
can
easily-
confer.
I don't know, I
with-
think you want to be able to have police drive into the parking lot.
Oh, yeah, they can drive in, but, in other words, there's no lighting along the trail, along the path.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think you need that. I mean, even small park like Danner's Bill Park, there are people that come in at night, and it's,
You need a gate, is that what you mean?
I'm thinking you do.
We'll make sure
I
to
don't
consult
know,
with
but we've
the
had
Parks
issues
Director
here in the
to see
past.
what he
Yeah.
feels would be appropriate.
Yeah.
We've had issues with loitering out in the woods there.
Yeah, but you also get it with a gate, a gate and limiting car access you get where people will then feel comfortable going in there to do things they shouldn't be doing because they know nobody's driving in there to see what they're doing.
I agree with that. Yeah, so I think that's something we need to think through, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
we could also have a camera there, like we do in some places.
It's quite
So
easy to add a gate if we find that it's becoming an issue, so.
Yeah,
Add gate, add camera.
it's question mark.
It seems to be a consistent issue.
I'm not saying we should add a gate or a camera, I'm just saying these are things to
Potential.
think about.
Yeah.
We can talk to Kristen about that, and that would be.
We could wait and see how it goes, and if we're having issues, you say, okay, I guess.
Start locking the gate.
You might
Yeah.
even, some vegetation might need to be cleared, so you have more visibility into the area.
That
I mean, and some
actually
were
is
just
part of the
using a
plan.
chain link, that's
Mm.
all.
Okay.
That seems to work.
So you
And that
can
was
see the
thing.
parking
We want
lot?
people to be able to feel safe and use this trail, so
Yeah.
so we will be clearing, along the trail in a fair swath so that you don't you know,
You could look at trail
feel
cameras,
unsafe in
too.
some.
It's
So
an
it's
8-foot.
ADA, you want to be able to take a wheelchair down the trail, right?
Yes.
But also, in this era of Lyme's disease and everything else, you want to be able to have a wide enough trail that you don't brush against any vegetation, so.
Yeah, it's an 8-foot wide trail. The maximum clearing to meet grades in a couple of spots is 24, but I'm thinking it'll be at least 4 feet on either side when
That's
it's
good.
meeting existing.
Yep.
So you'll have
All
a
right,
total.
any other questions? All right, we're ready to move forward then.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank engineering, Nick and Tom and Dave. They've done a ton of work when it came to the grant. Dave, especially with all the reporting requirements.
Yeah.
Really quite a bit of work, so I
I get-
really appreciate it.
I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall.
I just don't want, this is great, I just don't want this thing to be end. I want this to be the beginning of the Maritime Park there, so.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks. So this is on for next meeting.
All right, so we're gonna move on to updates.
In terms of what the sign says.
I think this weekend's the Sag Harbor Music Festival, right? That'll be fun. It starts tonight? Lots of local live bands, a lot of talent in the area. So besides that, the first thing I wanted to say is, and I know the board's already aware of this, so Governor Hochul did sign the bill yesterday. That bill does extend the timeframe for the effective tax line for the trustees. So it would have been this next this next fiscal year. Now it's the following fiscal year, so a part of me is a little bit sad that we were not able to reach an agreement with the trustees in terms of, you know, how staff would be disciplined and other use of town services and buildings, et cetera. That's unfortunate. So we have another year, or I shouldn't say we, because I won't be here, but, you know, I know the board will work into next year on this issue, trying to figure out how to, what type of documents are needed to fully understand the roles and responsibilities of the two boards. That does sort of tie in with the budget, because without the governor signing it, there would have been a tax line, there would have been money into the trustees' account that would have gone toward all these various trustee budget expenses. So now the budget is, you know, I can finalize the budget, and I am finalizing the budget, very, you know, similar to this year's budget. It's no different. The funding levels are more. And my budget is coming out. It's just a proposed budget or tentative 2024 budget. It's my last budget, my 8th budget as supervisor that I've been involved with. And it should be finished and delivered to Sunday on Friday. So I probably technically have till Monday. It has to be by the last day of September, which I think falls on Saturday this year. But the plan is to have it to Sunday and to you guys tomorrow. I can't tell you what time, but, and then it's in your hands, and we can debate funding priorities. You know, was not, you know, it's never an easy budget, but, you know, it stays within the tax cap, and that's been a real challenge in a high inflationary environment. We've had to increase salaries so that we can recruit employees and so they can live in a high cost of living area. The cost of everything's been going through the roof, as you know, everybody knows, because of inflation. So it put a lot of challenges on the budget, but I was able to stay within the cap. So, and there's a little cap flexibility. I didn't go all the way up to the cap. There's some wiggle room if there's some things that I didn't fund that you want to fund. But you may choose to unfund some of the things that I chose to fund, and it's really up to you, so we'll have that debate. And as time progresses toward the adoption of the budget, we tend to get more details from the controller's office and from others. For instance, I've asked the county executive to budget more money for sales tax for our police than we had this year. I haven't seen the county's budget. When it comes out, I will know whether that's something that we're likely to get. I asked for another 360,000 roughly, and if that comes into our police department, that will create some more flexibility, or we can use it to reduce the tax levy. So any questions about any of the trustee issue or the budget issue?
I have a question about the sales tax
Yeah.
from Suffolk County. What are some of the increases that we're seeing on the east end from Suffolk County? The hotel taxes? I mean,
Well, I don't know how much we will get. They did change the hotel tax from like
how much more
3% to like,
is the county
it
realizing?
went from
the east end?
3% to like
I know,
5.5%.
it's significant.
So almost doubled. The hotel tax was generating for the county 12 to 13 million, so it almost doubled. So let's say they'll have $20 million. Some of it currently is programmed for this convention center in Islip. And the Discover Long Island went from a $2 million budget to a $6 million budget. There is some dedicated funds that the East End legislators will have. It's like $1 million for tourism promotion. Cultural, those things go to historic venues and cultural things, performing arts centers and things like that. So there'll be a little bit more money hopefully for that. It's not fair by any means, you know, if we collect, you know, half of the new money, so let's say half of that extra 10 million, we're producing 5 million, maybe we'll get 1 million back.
It doesn't just cover hotels, like in the brick and mortar sense, but it
It
also
doesn't do
covers
anything for
Airbnbs
hotels.
and VRBO.
Oh, in terms of who collects the tax. So very little to me, you know, and I'm in the hotel business, very little, there's very little benefit that comes to East End hotels from the hotel tax.
Right.
And that's been
It's
a
a tax.
long-term criticism, that the money is collected by us and then used to promote tourism in Western Suffolk. We do not get our fair share. Some of it goes to county funding. There's a dedicated line for the Vanderbilt Museum, for the Walt Whitman
Well,
Museum.
they're also now going after those with rental permits.
Yeah, so that's,
And the
that's
MTA.
the new thing with this current authorization, is they've expanded it to include vacation home rentals. It was never explicitly said in the state law. Now it says very explicitly that vacation rentals as of June of this year are subject to the sales tax. And so the county is using this company called Granicus, and they are sending letters to everybody who advertises a property on Airbnb or Home Away or Stay Marquee or VRBO or whatever it might be. There's lots of websites, and they're all getting letters that they, if they are renting short-term, they need to register as a sales tax collector. And they've tried to make it easy.
They want their money.
Yeah, well, they never were entitled to, in my mind, they never were entitled to that money in the past. The state controller and the county controller differed on that issue of whether the sales tax, hotel tax authorization included home rentals. Now it explicitly says it does, and so, you know, now there's no debate, and yeah, it's potentially a lot of money. It's a lot of money. There are thousands of short-term rentals on the East End, thousands. There are way more than there are hotel rooms. So,
Right, that's the big
So they're gonna get
increase.
more money from,
And
yeah, and
I just
we'll
hope in the
see.
future we'll be able to see what the county's realizing from the east end, or are they gonna put it in different locations? And, you know, we need to get a CPA on it to understand
it
how
may
they're
go up.
getting the money and how they're distributing the money.
So that hotel tax figure that I gave you, that 13 million to 20 million, could be put a lot higher if they're able to get that money from the short-term rentals.
Right, but it's still not distributed equitably, that's the real issue.
Now, if you do rent for 30 days or longer, you do not have to collect hotel tax. And home rentals, even the
Oh,
short.
right, then it becomes a.
Even the short-term rentals are not subject to sales tax. So if you stay 3 nights in a hotel, you are paying sales tax and hotel tax. If you stay 3 nights at a house, you're paying just the hotel tax, but you're also probably violating our code because we have a 2-week limit, a 2-week minimum. East Hampton has different rules. Southampton Village doesn't, they don't have a rental law. So depending upon where you are, you just have to figure out if it's permissible or not.
So I read our code as if you rent your short-term rental for 3 days and then wait another 11 days, you meet the 2-week.
You probably
The idea is that you don't have 3 day, 3 day,
Yeah,
3 day, 3
right,
day,
right.
and then the house next door is a, it's
I
a
suppose you could put it down as a
short-term.
2-week rental,
Right. then
and they
it's
left
2 week
early. But,
rental.
I mean, how do we enforce against that? So, yeah.
Right.
At least you don't have the constant ins and outs that I think that was the concern. But, at some point, the board may want to look at if it makes sense to in areas that have very little hotel capacity, whether, 2-week minimum is the right minimum. There might be areas, let's say a house is located next to a hotel, or in a zoning district that allows transient rentals. Maybe that house could be rented by the week without too much problem. So, those are things that I think just work with Ryan on in the future and figure out a formula that makes sense. Some people feel short-term rentals reduce the amount of affordable housing.
Agreed there.
I'm not sure, because if they're rented just as summer rentals, that's still probably more profitable than the year-round rental. So I'm not sure if they weren't short-term rented, that they'd be available for affordable housing.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon us, or future boards, to articulate or, enumerate how much the county gets from the East End, from Southampton Town, and what we get back. We have the 3rd largest police force in Suffolk County, and, that takes money. And, to build a convention center as Ronkonkoma is a great idea, but it shouldn't be funded on one particular area of the county.
Well, unfortunately, you have the same issue with CPF, that you have the argument that some areas of the town provide more revenue into CPF because they have a greater density of home sales, they increase, and argue for having a greater say in how the CPF money is spent. So, it can go 2 ways. That's something to be concerned about, that money is, that because of the revenue source, it should not dictate how that money is spent throughout the town because of where it comes from. And that's the argument that's made. I think it's a hard thing to walk, but I always think of CPF as that, because I've heard the argument over and over again, when we provide more money to CPF, we should have a greater say. And you can't hold that argument,
I was talking about the county, but.
Well, but I'm talking about the process, and it's the same kind of thing. It's like,
Right.
we provide a lot of money to the county that comes out of the East End that isn't equitably returned to us, and, in form of revenue or needs.
That's why you often hear conversations about Peconic County.
Yeah.
A lot of the sales tax, which is the main funding for the county, is derived on the East End. There's no doubt. I've never been able to get accurate numbers, but just from construction materials alone, it's, I'm sure hundreds of millions of sales tax that gets collected
Yep.
from our construction industries.
I mean, we're still arguing about the people who 3 years, finally the controller, we finally got the thing with the IA systems where people were being basically taxed on a grant, on a rebate. And they're still arguing with people 3 years prior to when they say the law is enforceable. Those people still have a tax issue with our IA system plan. That to me is not equitable either.
Good argument for Peconic County.
Yeah.
The last
I'm a proponent.
the last two
Hey,
quick things.
before we get off that, as a town, we also provide a lot of the services that counties provide.
Yes.
We have a licensing review board that's a county purview, and, you know, we've adopted that years ago, and, you know, we do that, and also social services and a number of things that are really key jobs that the town of Southampton does,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, and well, and they also use a lot of sales tax into the police department for things that are available to us, but we tend to not use.
The Suffolk County Police
Suffolk
Department,
County
which
Police
serves the 5 West End
for the,
towns.
like the detectives, we have our own detectives. Sometimes they help us.
Mhm.
Certainly, things like the medevac helicopter, we use and depend upon, but there is a lot of administrative costs of Suffolk County PD, a growing amount. And, you know, they take, I want to say, $120, $130 million out of countywide sales tax that goes into police administration. Some of which, you know, like the gang unit or the hate crimes unit, we will tap into. But for the most part, we are not, you know, it's very disproportional. Most of that is targeted at Western Suffolk, where the Suffolk County PD is in place. And, so the two other issues, one is, a couple months ago, we had a beach whale in Hampton Bays, actually it was in the Shinnecock Inlet, came into Shinnecock Bay, we dragged it out, buried it on the west side of the Shinnecock Inlet on the beach there, and that beach is like gone. So, you know, where we buried it was pretty far from the water, but now that whale is exposed. So the beach is gone, and the whale blubber and even some of the bones, ribs and things like mandible have been uncovered. So I think they were out there today with the county, and they are removing the exposed portions of the whale and reburying them further west where the beach is still thicker as you approach the Ponquag Pavilion. Still pretty far from the pavilion, but west of where they were buried. So that is being taken care of with Atlantic Marine Fisheries, Marine Mammal, whatever the organization, Robert DiGiovanni, is working with Nick Gibbons at County Parks and I guess County DPW. So the county is taking the lead on moving the whale to a different spot. We had discussed whether we should cart it to our transfer station or other different ways to dispose of the whale. But the plan is to have it reburied. That beach, and I've said this before, is getting very thin, and we have another coastal event coming in the next couple days where we're gonna potentially see more beach erosion. So I'm just gonna keep an eye on it, but, you know, we're gonna have another storm surge, another, you know, coastal flooding incident, and we have some stockpiled sand. We can try to shore that area up. The good news is that there will be some sand coming in, I think, about a month from now, when the county dredges the inner cut of Shinnecock Bay. So as you go into the Shinnecock Inlet and turn to the right, to the east, that navigational channel is going to be dredged next month. And some of that sand will be placed on the beach. So that should get us, hopefully, enough sand to get us to FIMP, which is, Jim, what, FIMP's about a year away?
Yeah, we're probably looking at fall of 2025, I think right now
Fall
is
of
the schedule
2025, so
for
that's 2
the U.S.
years.
Army Corps of Engineers, yeah.
So
Maybe a little sooner, but probably.
Yeah, I don't see us making it to 2025. Is even with the little bit of sand that we're gonna pick up. So we're gonna have to really think that one through. And there may be things that can be placed along Dune Road. There may be that, some kind of inner core to that dune, if that dune washes away, not just to pile up sand. With the house that got buttressed, they used some cages with filter fabric, and they dumped the sand into the cages. They're very inexpensive. But it does keep it in place, so when the waves break against it, the sand doesn't wash away. But some kind of temporary structure, we may want to explore with Ryan, is what's out there, what the state can provide, what the county can provide. Even like a jersey wall or something, a concrete, just to keep the waves from rushing across Dune Road if that dune disappears. But
The
it's,
ocean's coming.
It's just a
Yeah.
constant issue.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but waiting 2 years is gonna be a challenge. So anyway, but, I'll be, I'll be watching the next couple days for sure with Ryan and the police department and the harbor masters, and, be getting updates as to this coastal event and the integrity of that remaining dune. All right, that's all I got.
It needs an annual sand pass-through system from the east side of the canal to the west.
Well,
And I know it jets into
that's not
the
the
bay
plan.
as well.
The
but-
FIM
right, I
plan
get it.
doesn't call for
No.
that. The FIM
But this
calls
is
for
a problem that was created by the Army Corps of Engineers when the canal was made, and we like
That, I
the canal,
agree.
but
That is what's needed,
Yeah.
but that is not what's approved. So what's
Yeah.
approved is a 3-year system. Every 3 years, they come back.
Right.
So they basically, the sand that piles up on the east side, then eventually gets sucked into the inlet. Some of it ends up on Ponquag Beach, but it misses this one section. And so every 3 years, they come back and they dredge the inlet, and they dump the sand on that area by the commercial dock. And that's what they're calling sand bypass. It's just a 3-year wait time for each time they move the sand to where it's supposed to go. Yeah, it should be on a frequent basis. And if you look at aerials, you really see how the Meadow Lane side the beach is just enormous, and that jetty is way out here. And then the sand sort of shoots past it, and it sort of skips this area, and then comes in, eventually washes in by our pavilion at Ponquag Beach. That area, that beach is getting bigger. But this one cove, the wave energy is really intense, and it's sort of, the waves sort of scoop out the sand, eject it, and then it ends up further west. And
we've got a commercial,
You know.
fishing dock down there and 13 businesses.
Yeah, the Army Corps, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it would make sense to lengthen the jetty on our side, or whether it, or, I know at one point they looked at maybe like a T structure, like an L structure, to knock down some of the wave energy, but the current configuration isn't good for that section. I think it creates like this eddy system when the waves roll in from slightly to the east, and they swirl around and
Scours.
it
Yeah, actually,
scours.
Yeah.
swirl in a direction too. It creates swirls that go for miles.
It's a beautiful beach,
The
but it's very
dynamics, the
vulnerable.
hydrodynamics there are really fascinating, but, the problem is,
The number.
we're not working on the root cause hard enough.
Yeah, well, the Meadow Lane side, that jetty goes out so far, and our side it's way back. It's been added to, that jetty on the east side, So originally, if you
Okay.
look at where those houses are, those houses were close to the water. Now it's a long walk to go from those homes on Meadow Lane to the water. That beach has it's up hundreds and hundreds of feet longer. And then, instead of taking that sand and moving it, they just made that jetty further out. I don't know what year that was done.
So even when we get the FIMP sand there, this same issue and this same dynamic, this same problem still exists.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's in the future, but something
Yeah.
needs to happen there.
Yep,
These are businesses and jobs and private property, but we all know this.
yep, all right, so Tommy John, what you got?
Nothing at this time.
John?
I'm good.
Rick?
I'm good.
I have a few. Saturday afternoon, I attended the opening of The Point at SYS. It is a beautiful 1,500 square foot space for youth and young adults with autism.
The Point at SYS?
Kim Cavell and Patty Tizzulo have been working on this for
For a
years.
long time, it's happened.
It's a very welcoming space. They're welcoming the entire community in. They have Hampton Coffee has donated a coffee machine, so they're buying the coffee and they're having a coffee club in there.
Where
There's
is
a
it
little
in Ashley
cafe.
House?
It's on not the main entrance side, the other side where the tennis courts are. Down
Okay.
towards the end, right next to the physical therapy office. But it's a great space, so they're welcoming the community in. You for I think for
Is it in
$100.
the portion of the building closest to Major's Path or furthest from Major's Path?
It's the back end of the building. So you drive
Yeah,
in,
but-
you make the first right. You don't go past the building. You
Or
make the
but
first
you
right.
make that first right to go all the way to the end?
Yeah.
Of the building? Okay.
Yeah, but it's a great space, and like I said, they've been working on this for many years. So it's nice they finally found a location for it. So that was a nice event. Saturday evening, I attended the Flanders Fire Department installation dinner. I was able to present service awards. There were quite a few, but of note, Michael Spano and Joey Cavaluzzi were recognized for 50 years of service to the department. Flanders' 75th anniversary parade is this Saturday, 3 o'clock on Flanders Road. Flanders Road will be shut down for a portion of it. Sunday morning, the Hampton-based fire department was kind enough to let Christine Scalera and I on their bus, where we had our team for Tunnel to Towers, which is the Captain Billy Burke team with Jim, and also Christine, Sean Cambridge, Tara Farrell, and Christine Fenton. It was an amazing experience. So I just want to thank Third Assistant Chief Lou Stellato from the Hampton-based Fire Department for welcoming us on that. It's something I'll never forget. And then last night, I attended the Suffolk County Fire Academy Medal Ceremony to honor those who went above and beyond the call of duty. We honored 3 Sag Harbor firefighters, Ryan Miller, Kevin O'Brien Jr., and John Schroeder II. They received the Bronze Medal of Valor, and Riverhead firefighter Justin Berry from Riverhead Fire Department received the Gold Medal of Valor. So it was a nice kind of week of honoring those who have served and served our community. And, thank you seems inadequate, but I still want to say thank you.
That's great. All right, any other updates? Okay, so let me take a quick look at what we have for exec. Personnel, acquisitions, confidential legal advice. So I will make a motion to end our work session and go into executive session on those items.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.